29 families are looking for their loved ones over time.
Yeah.
And I keep saying, if you say you're looking for somebody, right? The people who are tasked with the job to maintain order and security also tell you that they don't know where they are, number one, and they have tried to find them, they cannot. They don't know what else to do to find them. You had better be worried about the state of security.
Yeah.
Because if the people who've been given the job to do don't know how to do it, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions about that. Or whether it's selective knowledge. Excuse me. Anger as Pasaris seeks to keep protesters away from Parliament. That's another headline. Bill proposes 60-year age limit for police bosses. So once you clock 60, you can't be the boss of the police. Hospital ordered to pay us employees sacked over food. You want to hear that story? Trust me. Violent arrests, abductions on the rise as court summons Amin. And the DPP wants baby Pendo murder trial moved. To what? To where, you ask? We'll tell you. Understanding the birth of Saba Saba as Monday nears. Saba Saba comes on Monday. Tears flow for slain teacher as King eulogized Ojwang at solemn mass. And the court is to decide Lagat case over Ojwang's death. Waiting for that as well. And I just want to look real quick. Of course, the sports page is full with stories about what's going on. Kenya Cup coming up. And of course, Wimbledon continues. And your local leagues still continue. All right? Settled?
Let's go to the Daily Nation and the headline, United in Greed. Why do you ask? It's all about control of funds now. The First Amendment, the National Assembly has in many instances struggled to raise a quorum when it is considering people-centered bills. But on Tuesday, the House attracted one of the largest turnouts in its history, with rival camps closing ranks in pursuit of a common interest, money. In their never-ending desire to line their pockets, over 300 members voted to change the constitution to put under their control 3 funds declared illegal by the courts.
Okay.
Yeah. Muslims, we want respect court ruling on inheritance. Muslim leaders have criticized the Supreme Court ruling that granted inheritance rights to children born out of wedlock, describing it as a direct contradiction of Sharia law. Now, Kenyan officers mark first year of Haiti peace mission. A year ago, the idea of Kenya police officers standing guard in the gang-infested alleys of Port-au-Prince in Haiti seemed like a distant diplomatic fantasy, but it is now 1 year later and there's an officer who's still missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've not received any official government reports, but some have come from Haiti confirming that indeed that man was taken and is actually dead.
Is he dead?
That's what the Haiti government said.
Okay.
Now, there is something called deportation that Elon Musk was really happy to happen in the United States. But you know what has happened? Trump has threatened him with the deportation dispute. US President Donald Trump now says the White House will examine the possibility of deporting Elon Musk after the billionaire blasted the tax and spending bill.
You know what? There was this thing in the time gone by called a duel.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to get their weapon, do the 18 paces, turn around and see who gets the first shot, and leave the rest of us alone, please. If they want to deport to themselves or do not have tax,
you just
get
deport.
over it.
It's fine. At least Teslas will be manufactured in Africa for all we care. Anyway.
Mr. Okari?
Okay, let's look at the Star. Senate poised to end CDF for good. New stand to renew political rivalry between the two houses. So how county governments will share 415 billion. There's a story there. Pipeline put on sale again after state makes U-turn. Tears and calls for justice. Ma Albert Ojwang Mass. And I was just reading through Albert Ojwang's wife, Nevina Onyango, with whom he had a son, George Miles, also known as Albert Jr. And she talked about the shared dreams that they both had, and they were building together since meeting in 2021. And just listening to this young woman talk about Albert, the husband who was in the casket in front of her, was just terrible. And she was saying, we had plans, the way you left us is unbearable. But I hold on to our love, our memories, and our son, the piece of you that lives on, she said. She promised to raise their son with strength and ensure he knows how loving and devoted his father was. And she continues, you always checked on us. You loved music. Mama Kamara and Yar Jadong by Prince Inda were your love letters to me. Every time I hear them, I hear you, she said. And if these words won't bring justice to Albert, I'm telling you, there is no God. Someone is going to pay for this. On page 3, why DPP wants Baby Pendo case transferred to Kisumu. So they say the move to Kisumu would facilitate court's view of the scenes of offenses. So the idea here is transfer the hearing of the case to Kisumu because it's going to be convenient for witnesses. And in an application by Principal Prosecution Counsel Victor Witi, the DPP wants the court to either transfer the case or consider holding hearings in the Lakeside City. So those are the two options. Another story here, senators vow to oppose bill seeking to save CDF. Matiang'i dares Ruto as he confirms top job bid. And then lobby rallies young women to vie in 2027. Those are the stories in the Star. And many, many more.
Okay, so let's look into some of those stories in detail. This one about the hospital employee. Hospital ordered to pay employee sacked over food. I know. Listen to this. Wycliffe Chogo served the Nairobi hospital for 20 years as a ward attendant, but he was unceremoniously fired over 3 plates of food. For this, the hospital will pay him 60... The hospital will pay him 667,122 shillings and 30 cents after the Employment and Labour Relations Court found the termination unfair and unprocedural. Justice Stella Ruto said that there was no evidence that Chogo was given an opportunity to explain or answer the claims leveled against him. At the same time, Justice Ruto observed that he was not also notified before the hospital considered firing him. As the court has found that the claimant's termination from employment was unfair substantively and procedurally, he is awarded 1 month's salary in lieu of notice and compensatory damages equivalent to 8 months of his gross salary. This award was considered the length of the employment relationship, which was relatively long, as well as the fact that the respondent neither proved the reasons for the claimant's termination from employment, nor the fact that it was compiled with the requirements of, that it complied, I beg your pardon, with the requirements of a fair hearing in so doing. Now, this is what happened. Chogo explained that on October 5th in 2017, just think about it, 8 years ago, while performing his duties, his supervisor called him and notified him that he needed to go to the security office. So he thought, oh, snap, something terrible is going on. He said the head chef, the chief of security, and other officials informed him that 4 plates of food were found in the ward where he used to work. 3 of them, which were alleged to have been sold, and 1 was a complimentary one issued to employees. So what's the problem? He was asked to account for the 3 plates. Chogo denied knowledge of any food business in the workplace, and he was asked to record a statement and allowed to resume his duties. The following day, Chogo was again taken to the security office, where he found police officers waiting for him. Police. Remember I told you it was plates of food. He was arrested and taken to the Kilimani police station. According to him, he was not given the reason for the arrest. The man was later informed that the police were investigating the food incident. He recorded a statement and was released on bail. He went back to work. Chogo told the court he was never charged or made aware of the findings of the investigation. He said on the 9th of October then, the management suspended him for 5 days on the grounds that he was diverting food meant for patients. Chogo further said the suspension was extended for 6 days before he was eventually fired. So, sorry, there was something on your head. But we've removed it now. I don't know. But you're good.
So this story. These are the 3 most expensive
plates of food ever.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
Very expensive. I think this is a case where, you deal with an employee thinking, "Atanpeleka wapi?"
Yeah.
So, how those cases are sometimes handled at those levels, and you never ever think that somebody can go to court and they can actually get this kind of money. The question is, will they pay this money?
they kind of have to pay the money now.
Yeah.
First of all, you sacked a man over 3 plates of food. You didn't even have the decency to tell him the reason for his sacking.
Yeah.
But then again, he served food for the longest time. Never had you heard that who was he selling food to?
Yeah.
Selling food to his staff. If you know about hospitals and how they take care of their staff, that a lot of the staff are fed or they buy food at a subsidized rate based on the fact that they serve meals to patients. So on what basis would he have to serve food? But even as I'm interrogating this, the problem is that they didn't interrogate it at the time. So whereas you could have had a conversation with him and you could have had him explain to you what was going on, then you want to ask questions about whether it warranted police coming to the hospital to arrest this man over 4 plates of food, which even if the food was 1,000 per plate, now you have to pay how much? You would have even told the guy, we're missing 4 plates of food and we're going to charge it plus damages at 1,000 bob per plate and we're going to deduct it from your salary.
You know, by the
But
time
now you're going to have to pay almost 700,000 shillings for those plates of food, my friend.
But you see, as investigations are going on, they say the food was sold. So clearly there's someone who bought the food. So did this person record a statement and did they confirm that it is this individual
But
who sold
that's
it?
the problem. That's what the Industrial and Relations Court is saying, that why don't we, if you say the food was sold, who bought it?
Who bought it?
Who received money?
Yeah, but you know, in all fairness, there's a bigger story here. Let me not talk about this particular case, but this happens in very many hospitals where food is sold to patients. So it's a family talking to the person responsible and saying, tuangalilie mtu wetu. Then you pay something small, and then mtu wetu gets the food, because the hospital claimed that the head chef has been complaining that food meant for patients in the wards was missing. So by the time you see them making that, taking the action of bringing in police officers, at that point maybe they had it. But this could be an isolated case, so they decided, you know what, we are going to call the police on you. And then very quickly they start doing all these things, and then they realize hatuna evidence. But this sometimes happens. But on this particular case,
I think that was extreme.
it's too extra. Yes, of course, calling cops on somebody because of food. Is going, it's too extra.
What is the internal mechanism when it comes to disciplinary action within the institution? You know, did you at least explore everything before calling the police and even firing the individuals?
Now it's because of those questions and you don't have answers for them. That is why you will do what? You will now pay 700,000. Yep.
Sasa kuna hii mambo yenye iko page 4 and 5 where members of parliament united in greed. Now, a record high 304 members of parliament on Tuesday voted to entrench 3 funds under their control into the constitution in their never-ending desire to line their pockets. The National Assembly, that has in some instances struggled for quorum when considering people-oriented bills, attracted one of the largest turnouts in the history of the House. Rival camps closed ranks in pursuit of a common interest money. It was one of those rare moments when Orange Democratic Movement MPs defied their party leader, Mr. Raila Odinga, to overwhelmingly back the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2025. Now, the bill seeks to anchor the Constitution on the National Government Constituency Fund, the Senate Oversight Fund, and the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. Although the law bars MPs from the day-to-day running of the funds, they have a lot of sway over the award of multi-million shilling road tenders and other contracts, which have turned into breeding grounds for corruption, as highlighted by the Auditor General in past reports. So the courts clearly pronounced itself on this matter, declared these funds illegal, that we know the purpose of a member of parliament, which is representation, oversight and legislation. You have no business managing all these funds. It is also a conversation we had yesterday with CJ Emeritus on these funds. It says that it's just a ground for corruption. But members of parliament feel like, yeah, we must have this money. You know, and for once, members of parliament from ODM can actually have a stand against the party leader. Mr. Odinga, on this one, we have a say.
You know, this story, what these guys are doing, in short, they're trying also to trap the Senate from what you hear the senators say, because there's the National Government Constituency Development Fund.
Yes.
Then they want to rope in 2 sister funds. So you've got the senators also having the Senate Oversight Fund, SOF. Then you've got the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. So essentially what they're saying, we're going to get our kitty, but we also want you to get your kitty. Now, for the senators, which I found very, very interesting, it's basically ring-fenced around oversight.
Yes.
So this oversight conversation, they're saying that for us to oversight, we need funding
Yep.
because we have to go to the field, we have to do all these things, we have to pay people to go to do the field work. But if that is the case, how much is each senator going to see? So the percentage in the constitution only sets the minimum. But during that debate, MPs were hinting at 1.5 million per constituency per month. Now, let's do
County. Okay, sorry.
not county, constituency. Now, if you're doing 1.5 million Kenya shillings per constituency per month, let's take a classic example of Kisumu County. So if Kisumu County has 7 constituencies, so 7 constituencies in Kisumu, it means a senator would control roughly 10.5 million
Yeah.
per month. You multiply that times 12 for just 1 year, you're looking at 126 million. This is for oversight field work.
Yeah.
It's not salaries it's just field work. So the exact figures again will be put into this document, and they want to control this amount. And what the senators are then saying, wait, you guys want to trap us, rope us into this thing because there's an illegality because of what the court said. And the question is, if it moves to Senate, will it then be passed? And if you look at the sentiments here, they're saying, no, we're going to shoot this thing down, or else this thing ended to referendum.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because the question is then, what is the Senate hungry for? Is the Senate hungry for the fund, or is the Senate hungry then for proper oversight? Because if it were, then the Senate would be the one, lower house, upper house, whatever the case may be, the Senate would be the one to say, no, we actually have to adhere to what the court has said and what we're constitutionally bound to do. But this is also flying in the face of the call from many a senator over time for this very fund, where they've been said that our oversight capabilities or oversight capacity has been greatly reduced because of the fact that we don't have the resources that we need. So it's kind of like a dangling carrot before them. You want to shut off our funds? We can decide that we will not make the law that requires, or rather that guarantees that you will have funds to do your job. So, take your pick. It'll be interesting to see what the senators choose.
When you talk about oversight, especially in the counties, majority of whatever is done usually is through the committees, right? So when such happen, one of the things that senators rely on usually is the statement of accounts and whatnot, to dig deeper into that before going on ground to visit the projects that would be there. So when we talk about all these funds per constituency, why are we not looking in terms of the documentation that is needed going into the books of accounts before the fact? Why does a senator need 1.5 million per constituency?
There are people who are speaking around this thing, and it's so disturbing how we quickly change. I mean, look, Edwin Sifuna, Nairobi senator, well, he insists the bill will face a tough battle in the Senate and potentially in court. The National Assembly leader, Kimani Ichung'wah, defends the bill, saying it empowers poor communities. Which poor communities is he talking about? Now, ODM MP, Otiende Amolo, who's a co-sponsor of the bill, says it received the highest level of public support ever.
Yeah.
Are you hearing this?
Yes.
And then he says 88.5% of the public supported it in a referendum simulation. So they simulated in the event there's a referendum, how will this look like? And they said this is receiving the highest level of public support. I mean, come on, guys. Are
Highest
we
level of
kidding
public
ourselves?
support. Which public participation did it go through for them to say that it was gaining public support?
No, this is not their simulation.
Simulation.
They've done a simulation and
Yeah.
they're projecting. If this thing goes to a referendum, it's going to get 88.5%.
Yeah, but we also
approval.
know that CDF, even before it was turned an NGCDF,
Yeah.
has always been a political tool. Always.
Yes.
That folks have used this to wield some kind of power. Now, to be reft of it is that there's the fear that you lose some of that power
Yeah.
without the fund.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's look at some other stories, okay?
Okay, story here. we're looking at this story of, where was it again? Very quickly. Of Baby Pendo. No, we're still talking about justice.
Yeah.
So this case has been ongoing for the longest time ever. So now, my issue is, with all these delays, so there's a decision that is going to be made whether the case is going to be transferred to Kisumu or not. Where is it? I'm just trying to look for it. Give me a second. Okay, I have it here. So the DPP is asking the High Court to transfer the hearing of the Baby Pendo case from Nairobi to Kisumu. So the argument here is it's going to be closer to a lot of the witnesses, so it's convenient to them. So 8 other officers who had originally also been accused alongside the 4 have had the charges against them dropped by the Director of Public Prosecutions, who cited lack of evidence. So Baby Pendo was fatally hit in 2017. Which year are we in?
2025.
How many years are those?
8.
As police officers were deployed to quell violence linked to the 2017 post-election protest in Kisumu. So they also pleaded not guilty to other charges of torture and rape committed against civilians. Now, the accused are out on 1 million cash bail each. Actually, there was a photo somebody took. How they're strolling the streets, they are okay.
Yep.
They've been given cash bail. So when the matter came up for mention before Justice Margaret Muigai at the High Court in Nairobi on Wednesday, parties were informed of the DPP's application, dated when? June 30th. So the matter is coming for hearing on Wednesday. June 30th is when the DPP files this application. So the DPP argues that transferring this case to Kisumu or holding trial sittings in the Lakeside City would facilitate the court's view of the scenes of the offenses which are the subject of the case. When did this thing happen again?
2017.
So the transfer of the case will also tend to the general convenience of witnesses, most of whom are based in and around Kisumu County, you might argue, okay? He says the accused will not suffer any prejudice should the orders sought be granted. Now, Justice Muigai directed that the application be served on all parties and the parties to file their responses within 7 days before it is heard on July 17th. Now, they must not in any way, either personally or through proxies, contact witnesses or victims, nor disclose or disseminate any information relating to the case. Justice Muigai ruled on May 12th. Now, the question is, so you're taking this thing closer to where it happened. You're still talking about tampering and contacting witnesses and all that. From my reading of this thing, we keep pushing this thing. It's going to be July 17th.
Yep.
3 days before this case comes for hearing, you're doing a fresh filing, which means the court has to allow everybody, all the parties, to actually go through the application and then adjust another date, and adjust another date, and then another date. So from 2017 to 2025, this is the time they're realizing, wait, we need to move this case to
closer to where
it
incident
happened, so that it gives you a 360 view. Of this is where it actually happened. What are we talking about?
You know, when you're talking about taking it closer to where it happened, we're talking about witnesses being able to access court, right? But then remember, there's a body called the Witness Protection Agency. What its role in making sure that, first of all, witnesses are protected and that witnesses are able to show up in court.
I mean, guys, let me tell you. From my reading, you look at all these cases. This is Baby Pendo. Now we're looking at another case of Lagat. We're still waiting to hear what these guys are what they're gonna sue.
Whether he's going to be named as an individual in the case.
So court is yet to decide Lagat case over Ojwang's death. Why is it that when it's certain people in our society, the cases move so fast, evidence is produced so fast, but when it's ordinary people, Baby Pendo's case has been ongoing for the longest time. Albert Ojwang is going to go the same direction.
Sadly.
If you're looking at the patterns, it's going to go the same direction.
Sadly.
Boniface Kerrick is going to go the same direction, where we're going to go on to the courts. Then after months and years, there's fatigue, so there's no follow-up.
It's sad, but it's true. And that's the thing, that it's really sad that that's the pattern that has formed. But that's the thing about the pattern, that you just continue going in the same direction. And you know, I keep saying this, and it almost sounds like a broken record, but that's why you have to keep these things front and center in terms of discourse. You have to keep talking about them. Just like I every day read up on what's going on. Just like today, that there are remains of almost 400 people in a makeshift freezer mortuary outside the Malindi Sub-County Hospital. These are people who were exhumed from the ground in Shakahola Ranch. 3 years later, we still don't have the reagents that are needed for testing to find out who these people are. There are families. 637 people were on the list. 200 and some odd have been identified 3 years later. We don't even know what stage of exhumation that they're in. And there are people who are underground, buried. We're not asking questions. What's going on with the Mackenzie case, by the way? That case is still in court. People are still asking questions in terms of what's going on. But people get tired. People get tired, and then you want to know what's going on. But justice has not been served, and that the possibility that there are still human bodies underground that have not been exhumed, and that there are others that are sitting in a freezer somewhere, and we've not tested them to make sure we know who they are. My goodness, what do you expect?
Justice
whether
is slow.
Whether you're dead, whether you're alive.
Yeah, justice is slow for you and me, or the ordinary person, but justice is very fast for those who are on the upper deck of our society.
Those are things we can't keep quiet about, and that's why we talk about them right here in the Situation Room on Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning at 7 a.m.